So we've talked so far about adding and subtracting fractions and simplifying them. Today we're doing division of fractions, which most people get kind of icky about, especially when we have like stacked fractions. I don't know if we go into that with this. But dividing fractions is just multiplication, right? It works just like multiplication. If you know the rule, you know that all we have to do is flip that fraction over the divided by part and then multiply. So if you can multiply, which is the easy part of fractions, right? Adding and subtracting is the hardest thing to do with fractions because you got to find that common denominator. The rest of it is pretty easy when we talk about multiplying and dividing. If you look right now, we've got the rules up here. We've got the dividing fractions main ideas. 1, write all mixed numbers as improper fractions. Do not leave them as mixed numbers, right? I saw some people doing that on the multiplication and not okay. Same thing. Turn it into improper fractions first. Change the division symbol to a multiplication and flip the second fraction to its reciprocal. KISS. Does anyone remember what KISS is? It's like
Isn't that like a band?
It's like yeah, it is a band. Very good. You should get extra points just for knowing that. Um I don't remember what it stands for. It's like keep something switch. I don't know what it stands for, but it's one of those mnemonic devices. Then it says multiply the numerators to get a new numerator, multiply the denominators to get a new denominator, and then simplify if you need to. I noticed also on the multiplication, a lot of you guys weren't simplifying your fractions at the end. You need to simplify. If you have an even number over an even number and you don't at least divide each of those by 2, you should lose 8 million points. 8 million, really, just for keeping an even number over an even number, because that's the simplest one. I mean, at least you know they're each divisible by 2. Now, will I take away 1 million points? Yes. No, I'm just kidding. I won't. So let's look at all of these examples and see what we can come up with, right? Because that's the best way to learn, is to just see it happen. So I'm sick of this purpley color. I feel like our color palette is really limited. Oh, looky here. Not as limited as I thought. Look at that. We got a green one. There. Let's go green. Everybody's going green.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this one blue and that one green. I think we're good there. All right. So let's look at number 1. Number 1, we've got -3 divided by -1/4. Well, -3 is the same as saying 3 over 1, right? You can write any whole number as a fraction just by putting it over 1. So we're going to rewrite this. We're going to go -3 over 1 times. We're changing our division to a times, but that means we need to flip this fraction over, and that becomes 4 over 1. The negative stays the same, right? We had a -1/4. We don't change that. We just, what it's called is multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of a fraction is just its flipped over version, right? And it allows us to multiply instead of divide, which should make all of you happy because nobody likes dividing. Nobody. So I have a negative times a negative. So we know we're going to have a positive answer, right? Because we remember, keep it, switch, switch, keep it, switch, switch. Oh, I get it. Keep it, the first one, switch the sign and then switch the fraction. Is that what that is? KISS? Keep it, switch, switch. Thanks, Eliza. Thank you for filling us in on that one. I appreciate that. So we know we have a negative times a negative. We're going to have a positive answer. 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. And 12 over 1 just equals 12. Now, when you guys are doing your homework worksheet, I want to see this work. I don't just want someone to write 12, right? I want to see what you're doing. Otherwise, I just give it all to you on Delta Math and you can just put in the answers. I want to see what you're doing because if you're not doing it right, if you're missing something, I want to see what that step is that you're missing. And if you just give me answers, I don't know. Also, you can just plug these problems into a calculator and get the answers. I want to know that you understand how to do it. And I know that by the work that you show. So the first thing we need to do on this one is we have a mixed number. So we're going to rewrite this problem, right? We're going to go, we've got 8/5. That one's going to stay the same. Divided by, and we need to write this as an improper fraction. So we're going to go 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So we have 8/3. And now we can rewrite it as our multiplication problem where we've got 8 divided by 8 over 5 times 8. Whoops, look at that. I'm already doing it wrong. Divide times 3/8. We're going to flip the fraction. And now we can just multiply all the way across. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 5 is 40. Can I reduce this fraction? Can I simplify this? Heck yeah, they're both even numbers, so I know that I can. I also know that they're both divisible by 2, right? Because they're even numbers, but I know that they're divisible by 4. You know what else I know they're divisible by? 8, right? I know that 28 times 3 is 24, and I know that 8 times 5 is 40. We know that because each of these have an 8 in it. So if I go 24 divided by 8, I'm going to have 3. And if I have 40 divided by 8, I'm going to have 5. And I am left with 3/5. Now, debating whether to give you guys a piece of information or not because I don't want to confuse you, but I also think that it's a cool thing. If I have, I'm going to tell you guys right now. Notice that I have an 8 here in this numerator and I have an 8 here in this denominator. I could have just canceled those and I'd have known I'd be left with 3/5 at the end, right? So that's a little something down the road, but I always think those little bits, those like little tricks, if you know them down the road, it makes your life easier. But I also know that sometimes it can make it confusing when you're trying to learn something. So I think we need to try green for the next problem. So our next problem, we have a division problem again. Notice that we have a negative and a positive. So what's my answer going to be? Is it going to be negative or positive?
Negative.
It's going to be negative, right? Very good. So we're going to rewrite these with the mixed number. Here I have 1 times 7 is 7 plus 1 is 8. So I have 8/7, right? And then we're going to make it multiplication and we're going to flip this fraction over. So it's going to be -4 over 1. So we're going to go negative. We know right off the bat that it's going to be a negative answer. 8 times 4 is 32. 7 times 1 is 7. And we have -32 over 7. That fraction doesn't reduce. That's our answer. Nothing that goes into 7 is going to equal 32. Because the only thing that goes into 7 is 1 and 7. And nothing times 7 equals 32. So we know we can't reduce it. It's not a negative over a negative, so you won't lose 1,000,000 points, right? But that does not reduce.
You have to do really something bad if you lose 1 million points.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's look at the next one. The next one we have 12 divided by 1 and 1/2. We know we're going to have a positive answer, right? Because there's no negatives anywhere in this one. So we don't even have to think about it. It's just positive. Everything's positive the way I like it. No negativity here. If we want to write this as a fraction, we can. We can call it 12 over 1. Same thing. Times. Yes, James.
I didn't mean to do that.
Okay. I'm not even going to change this to a times yet. I'm going to keep it as division for right now because we have to write it as an improper fraction, right? So I'm going to have 1 times 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So I have 3 halves. And now we can write it as multiplication. We can go, well, we've got 12 over 1 times, and we're going to flip that fraction, and it'll be 2 thirds, right? 12 times 2 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3. This is a nice problem because what is 24 divided by 3? For a million imaginary points, what's 24 divided by 3? I see you, Alejandra. I saw that. I got you. I got you. She's showing me 8. And she is right. 24 divided by 3 is 8. So we could just write it as 8. Josh, Lily, Eliza, Adele, a lot of people. Leah, have your cameras on. They don't care. They don't care what I say. They're going to make me call their parents for this turning cameras on. I see you, Leah. I saw you come back. You came back on. So let's look at this next one. Positive answer, right? Because we have 2 positives. So we're going to go 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. So we have 10 over 3 divided by 4 over 21. Who's got their mic on?
Caitlin, your mic is on. Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Caitlin. So when we rewrite it, it's going to be 10 thirds times 21 over 4. Ugh, big numbers. 21 times 10, though, is easy because we just put a 0 on the end of it. It's 210. 4 times 3 is 12. I know that these are divisible by 3. Did I show you guys the trick to know if something's divisible by 3? I think I did, right? Where you add all the digits together, and if it's divisible by 3. 2 plus 1 plus 0 equals 3, and that's divisible by 3. So I know that this is divisible by 3. I can tell you right now that it is 70. 12 is divisible by 3 because 1 plus 2 is 3. We know that's 70 over 4. But look, that still gives me an even number over an even number, right? So we know we could divide each of these by at least 2. 70 divided by 2 is 35. 4 divided by 2 is 2. I can't reduce that anymore. So, took a couple steps to get that one simplified, right? But we still got it done. Let's skip this one and do this one right here. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So we're going to have 9 fourths divided by 1 times 6 is 6 plus 1 is 7 sixths. So we have 9 fourths times, and we're going to flip it, 6/7, right? 9 times 6 is 54. 7 times 4 is 28. Whew. I know these are each divisible by 2 for sure, right? Because they're both even numbers. 54 is an even number and 28 is an even number. So this is going to be 27 over 14. And I don't think that reduces anymore. So we're going to leave it alone. I'm not going to do this next problem. I'm not going to do number 8, but can you tell me if it's going to be odd or even?
Odd.
Odd, right? We only have one. I shouldn't even say odd or even. I meant positive or negative, but I knew exactly what you meant. You knew it was going to be negative.
Negative.
What about this next one, number 9? Negative or positive?
Negative.
What about number 11?
Positive.
Positive, yeah, because they're both negative. 2 negatives makes a positive. Not in life, but in math. We are going to do one of these word problems, right? Because I am actually assigning you the word problems on your worksheet.
I never liked the word problem.
These aren't too bad, though, because all your numbers are right there. It says, Bill has a ladder that is 8.5 feet tall. The ladder has 6 equal spaces between the rungs. How large is each space? Well, think about that. That would be 8.5 divided by 6.
So are we gonna have a positive answer because they're both positive?
Yes, definitely a positive answer. And so now we have to convert this, right? We know we have 8.5. So 8 times 2 is 16 plus 1 is 17. So we have 17 over 2 divided by 6 over 1. And now we're just going to make it a multiplication problem. 17 over 2 times 1/6, which is good. It's easier to multiply 2 times 6 than 17. 17 times 1 is 17. 6 times 2 is 12. And that is a good enough answer. Your space is 17/12 feet. Do I have to make that into a mixed number? No. No, I don't. You can leave it as an improper fraction. Let's look at this last one. After a party in her class, Mrs. Jones had 3 3/5 pounds of fruit left. She splits the fruit into 2/5 pound portions. How many portions will she have? Well, it just means we're going to take what we started with, 3 3/5, and divide by 2/5, right? Which means we're definitely going to have to fix that mixed number. So 3 times 5 is 15, plus 3 is 18/5, divided by 2/5. So now it's a multiplication problem. We'll go 18 over 5 times 5 over 2. Now, you remember that little trick I told you before? Like, I know I could cross this 5 out and this 5 out and make them ones, right? I can just reduce those right there, and I'd be left with 18 over 2, which we know is just 9, right? 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now, we could go ahead. We could multiply 18 times 5 and 5 times 2, and we'd get that fraction, and then we'd have to reduce it. But if you have the same number in one of the numerators and you have it in that you do in one of the denominators, you can cancel them, right? Makes your math so much easier, right? And then we didn't have to really reduce too much. We know that she would have 9 portions, right? These I'm not going to do. So on your notes, you don't have to do them. Same with...
No,
Wait.
I'm still writing.
That's okay. I'll roll it back up. Did you get it?
A little more. Okay, I got it.
All right. I just want to make sure and cross out all the problems that you don't have to do. You don't have to do that one. The rest of them you did. So that is it. I believe... Hold on, I'm going to stop recording.